Well, hello, friends. Welcome back to this season 7 of Test Those Breasts podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Vaughn. I'm also the founder of Test Those Breasts, a breast cancer survivor and advocate. This season, we're bringing together stories of hope, meaningful conversations, expert insights, and powerful voices from across the breast health community. Real stories and resources designed to educate, empower, and encourage you to advocate for your breast health. Because knowledge is power, and your voice could make all the difference. A quick disclaimer, I'm not a medical practitioner. This podcast is for educational and awareness purposes only and should not replace professional medical advice. Now let's get to the next conversation. Well, hello, friends. Welcome back to this episode of Test Those Breasts. I am your host, Jamie Vaughn. And today I am so excited to have my friend Myra Marangi on my show. Myra is a DCIS breast cancer survivor, lifelong dancer, and proud Lola to her granddaughter, Arabella Lee. She spent the last 4 years helping her medical team unravel a mystery, immune-mediated inflammatory myositis that surfaced after her bilateral mastectomy alongside lymphedema and edema complications. Today, she manages her friend and lymphatic therapist, Dr. Nina Rutan's practice from home. And when she's not advocating for her own health, she's teaching dance, cardio formats like Zumba, UJam, Grovey Effect, and Mixed Fit, along with mat Pilates, yoga for mobility to keep her community moving. Well, hi, Myra. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Good. Thank you for having me as a guest, and good morning. I am as well as you can be under the circumstances, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah, we've tried to have this conversation a couple times, and I know that you've been dealing with so much, and I know how hard it is sometimes to get that perfect time where we can sit down and talk about our breast cancer journeys and all the things that we've been going through. And so I appreciate your taking the time, and I love your vibe. You've got a great vibe there, and you look very nice today.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
I do
Same
want
here.
to start out with asking you about who you were. Like, who was Myra before you were diagnosed with breast cancer?
Well, make a long story short, I was serving as a long-term substitute teacher of record at Hug High School the last year. So that was the fall of 2021. And I was teaching freshman biology. I had just moved with my 8th graders from Trainer Middle School, so 2020 to 2021. 2021, 2022, I started at Hug and was teaching freshman biology. And I was going to school, WGU, studying biological sciences, and was halfway through. And swimming along, I had my first case of COVID around that time too, so that was really rough. But I was just busy studying, doing my teacher route, and teaching my fitness classes that I've always taught the last 30 something years.
Just living life, busy. I know what it's like being a teacher. It is just insanely busy all the time. And I want to go back too, because you and I have known each other for quite some time, not in person. We've only seen each other a couple times in person, really, but we actually met, I think, when Brittany was doing her LuLaRoe stuff online. And
Correct.
we would be watching her show the different styles, and I would see you commenting on her lives and I would be commenting. So that was the first time that I actually saw your name. And then we just sort of got to know each other in that way. And then at some point we saw each other at a couple of cancer events, like Cancer Community Clubhouse. So here we were knowing each other more online, and then we both get breast cancer.
Right.
And the
same year. Yours was 2022, right?
Yeah, 2022. Yeah. So with that, tell us all the things about your diagnosis. When were you diagnosed? What were you diagnosed with? All the things.
Okay. It started with a self-exam. I was foam rolling in my room, in my bedroom, on the ground. And I was like, my left side, I was like, what in the world is that? I was fixated on it. It was June of 2021. And I panicked for a little moment, but I guess I had been so busy at the time. But I have a sister who went through breast cancer at the same age I did. She's 9 years older than me, but we were both 48 when we were diagnosed. And so with that, I copped a feel right there. I found a lump, And then I sort of forgot about it because my husband was changing jobs and we were changing insurances. And I said, okay, I'll just worry about it after September. Literally, that's what I thought. I'd never had a mammogram up to that point. I should have, but life was busy. Yeah, I was 48, never had a baseline at that point. I
Okay.
had several appointments set up, but then 2 were canceled, literally, by Reno Diagnostic Center. And then I just never rescheduled. And then this happened. So my husband, he reminded me, I believe at the very end of October, to schedule with my OBGYN, who's located in Carson. And I messaged my chart note to her that I need to see her. I have a lump. My sister has stage 4 breast cancer right now, and I'm kind of worried. Monday morning, she had her MA write back to me and say, can you come in tomorrow? So it was November 2nd of 2021 that I went in, had an exam, and she said, oh, I feel that too. So she's feeling underneath the left side, and she said, it seems mobile, so that's a good spot. It wasn't like a hard fixed spot. And so we went from there. And I believe I had to wait 2 or 3 weeks for the mammogram. So I went in for the mammogram toward the end of November. And to my shocking surprise, this was dense breast tissue. That's all that little lump was. That's all that was. She said, but however, this is Dr. Card from Carson Tahoe Imaging. And she said, there's something on your right side that we'd like to take a closer look at. Do you mind? Can you go back in? Like, don't get dressed yet. Can you go back in, get some more scans? And I was like, okay, just on that right side. So they took up and close pictures, and this all happened like bam, bam, like in the matter of like 10 minutes. She told me this, go to this, let's take some more scans. So after that, she just said it was suspicious. She wanted to do the stereotactic biopsy procedure. So I was scheduled for that on December 7th.
And what does that entail, Myra?
So sorry, I'm laughing because I spoke to many women who had a biopsy procedure done, previously. And they said, oh, it's just this little bitty needle. It's just this little bitty needle, and it just goes right in, and they do. And I was like, okay, so that's what I had expected in my mind because I had 2 weeks to perseverate on it. And it was not a little needle. It was literally pencil tip thick.
Yeah.
And
So that was the technical term for the needle biopsy. Okay.
Correct.
Interesting. So before I had 2 lumpectomies. That's how they biopsied a couple of things. I was put out, they took the lump and they biopsied it. For this last one that when I was diagnosed, they did the needle biopsy, and I'd never had that before. I have never felt such pain in my life.
Yep. Same.
That was not okay.
And you were awake, right?
Yes.
Why? Why are we awake with that?
Why are we awake? Why are we not sedated, at least something?
I was crying the entire time.
I was crying too. Yeah, not only are you crying because you're pretty sure you have breast cancer and you're processing that, but you're crying because of the pain. So that's something that needs to be fixed.
45 minutes just crying. And she's like, do you feel pain? And I'm like, no, it just feels weird. Why am I awake? Literally, I said that. I should not be feeling all of this. I remembered it. And I forgot about it until we talk about it. And I'm like, oh yeah, it was traumatic.
Yeah.
Medical trauma. Story of my life.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So you were diagnosed in November of 2022. So that was
21. Excuse me. December of 2021, after the needle biopsy. She said you should hear something in 2 days for the biopsy. And I thought, okay. So I had been like hyper checking, my app, wondering if I got any of the report back. And on the 9th, I thought for sure, I'm just going to show Greg, my husband, how this works. I logged on and I said, it should pop up here. And lo and behold, there was an addendum to that spot where I had opened because it said that, nothing further, but then addendum was added. And then I read it that it was ductal carcinoma in situ.
Yeah.
And I was like, carcinoma in situ. What does that mean? And I immediately just started screaming. I read the results myself. I didn't have anybody there. I was like, what? And it was like before ChatGPT. but I was Googling, but I probably screamed. My daughters and her best friend who was living with us at the time, I was in tears and just in shock that I had it. And then I was thinking, I'm going to end up like my sister.
So that is not uncommon for people to read their own results without the doctor calling, like they see it first. And of course, that sends people into a tailspin of, my God, freak out, Googling and all of that.
Yeah.
So that's another scary place to be. Yeah.
Yeah, completely.
So staging, tell us all the things about that and your treatment and surgeries.
Okay. So the difference between my sister and I is that she had really severe diabetes and she also smoked cigarettes. So she was not a surgical candidate. She didn't want to do it. And so she went through radiation first because she was at stage 3B when she discovered her cancer in the summer of 2012. So it was almost 10 years afterward when I was diagnosed. She was the closest experience that I had to breast cancer. So I was thinking, okay, she didn't have surgery. Maybe I should have surgery since I didn't smoke and I don't have diabetes. Maybe I should do that instead. So at the consult of the general surgeon in Carson City, I had everything go through Carson Tahoe. So my husband his father had a history of building how Carson Tahoe is currently today in the medical campus in the north end of town. So I thought, to honor my father-in-law, I would just go there instead of Packed Renown or go through cancer care specialist where my sister had gone through because I was scared. I was scared that they would want to give me chemo. But DCIS, of course, is in situ. It's inside of my milk ducts. That's where the cancer was. And it had not spread. So it was more like a stage 0 type of thing, but it was there. And the grade that it was a grade 3. So it was fairly aggressive and time was not on my side. So the first line was to meet with the surgeon because you should have this done as soon as possible. And I met with the surgeon and he had some options. I told him that I wanted to have a mastectomy because my sister had cancer at my age and she at that time she was currently really suffering through her chemo treatments and radiation treatments and she was weak and sickly and I didn't want to be like that. So I said, just Angelina Jolie, these babies, and then we'll go from there. I literally said that. I just said, I don't want to do lumpectomy because knowing me and my sister's fate, because it was 3B, then it went to stage 4, it metastasized to her hip bone specifically. And I said, just get rid of them and then we'll deal with it from there. And then he offered, okay, I can do like a one and done for you. I can put in some your similar cup size to where you are now, which was like barely a B, just very, downward. Anyway, after breastfeeding 3 children, I thought about it for a minute and I thought, well, if I have complications, you'll have to open me back up again. So probably not. And then in that same week, a couple days spaced out, I went to my plastic surgeon at the time. I am kind of a holistic type of person. So I was scared to think about what would plastic, silicone, whatever do inside my body. And I was really paranoid about that. So I had never heard of this. I spoke to a dear friend, Stacy Melcher.
Okay.
She's also a teacher in the grade school area of Washoe County. And I remember she took me out to coffee and gave me a little calendar and said, you got to put all your, appointments on there. And we talked a little bit about, what she had gone through, but her experience was completely different. As I learned, meeting more cancer survivors, that everybody was different. And I thought, I can't hop along the trails that my sister, nor, my close friends or anybody that I knew at the time, mine was going to be different somehow. So when I spoke to the plastic surgeon a couple of days later, after speaking with the general surgeon, he said the general surgeon was the one who removed, all the breast tissue. And then my plastic surgeon was going to be in charge of the reconstruction if I wanted implants. So I told him, I am contemplating going either flat or doing implants. And I just need your opinion. And he said, well, if you go flat, not verbatim, he said, if you go flat, you'll be concave. Like, and I was like, hold up, wait a minute, say that again. And he said, yeah, because, your rib cage is here and the chest wall, there's nothing there. It's tissue and skin, but, your adipose tissue, all that make up your breast won't be there. So you'll be, and I was thinking, okay, I wear tank tops, I wear sports bras, whatever I do when I teach in the gym or when I do stuff. When I exercise, I always wear, something semi-supportive. I wasn't, endowed well. So I didn't really worry about that part. And I was thinking, I don't want to be concave. And I didn't want to wear like the breast form or, stuff like that. What if they fall out when I'm teaching? Worst case scenario, my imagine went away from me. And then I decided right there and then I didn't want to be concave. Please give me implants. And then I think maybe a consecutive appointment later, I thought, hell, I'm doing this, may as well experiment with some size because this was a really shitty thing that was happening to me. So maybe there could be some little, not little reward, but like, benefit, side benefit, whatever. I'll go a little bit bigger. So we did that. That was a plan and we stuck to it. So I had my mastectomy on January 11th of 2022. So approximately 2 weeks later, after I had met with both surgeons. And when I woke up, I just remember just feeling weird. And I did have the expanders put in. So they were heavy feeling, but they were flat. I was flat and like wrinkly. And so I thought, okay, this is going to be interesting because they explained how the process would go to fill in, a couple cc's at a time and like, use a magnet to find your space there and, blow them up as time goes on and get to the desired size that I wanted. So did that. And I had always had some bothersome pain on my left side, literally bothersome pain at some point, maybe early on 3 to 4. It was before my reconstruction surgery, which took place 6 months after the mastectomy in June. But in the meanwhile, I had developed complications of lymphedema because the extra skin that was here and whatever just kind of filled up with fluid. And I thought, what is happening? Like, what is hanging from, my bra strap? What is that? And then I was introduced by my oncologist, Dr. Tack. I was introduced to Dr. Rattan, my certified lymphatic therapist, who was at the time working with Carson Tahoe. So her and I were talking about this weird pain and going through our LDM, lymphatic drainage massages. And I had like this mysterious looking line, like whatever, dark line under my breast as I was getting the expansion done. This line was created and there was some pain there. And the pain was so intense. I had friends who suggested, I'll go to a dispensary for you, marijuana dispensary, and get the topical cream and that should do the trick because I was taking Tylenol and I think I was taking Advil at the time or ibuprofen. I didn't know I wasn't supposed to be. This is later down the road where I cannot take NSAIDs anymore. And anyway, found that topical cream, put it on there. It finally gave me some relief. I saw the surgeon about it and I shit you not. This is what he did. He got a washcloth. He ran it under some water. And he's like, this is what you do. Shh. Lift up your breast, scrub, scrub, scrub. And I was like, what the? And my husband and I looked at each other. And I was like, did he just dismiss me? Like I was in shock.
Yeah.
At the time, because I was like, are you saying that I'm just dirty? I'm dirty. And my pain is all in my head, And it's nerves are regenerating was the explanation that definitely that could just accumulate some dirt, from surgery. And if you don't scrub there you go. And he started scrubbing and I was like, it never went away. The line never went away, no matter how hard I scrubbed. And then I decided I just didn't love him at that point. But then I went through,
that's frustrating.
Yeah. It is frustrating because I was like, what am I doing? Like, I felt like I had 2 weeks to make this life decision and I'm stuck with it. So here I go. So it turned out okay. I went to Hawaii for both of my younger girls, graduated 2021 and 2022. In 2022, we just took both of them to Oahu. So we had celebrated the week before my reconstruction surgery in June of 2022. And I broke my toe. I was trying to surf with the sea turtles. And so I had a broken toe. I went into surgery and I remember saying, well, this will be the thing that keeps you down because my former self had a lot of energy before cancer, a lot. And I remember, going through surgery, I felt some relief because, again, I had a constant naggy whatever. Like, you're not supposed to feel anything because your nerves were stripped during the mastectomy, but yet I was feeling something, and I didn't know what it was. And after the surgery, I remember feeling a lightness because the expanders are very heavy after they're filled. And I remember things feeling a little bit lighter. I felt a little bit better. And then I waited. I was down. I was really good about staying down for at least 8 weeks. And at the 10th week, I went back to working out, and I was at St. Mary's Fitness at the time in downtown Reno. And I had pushed really hard some seated calf raises on a machine. And then lo and behold, the next day, my lower legs, I couldn't feel them. I thought, what happened? Like, they were numb. And I freaked out because I've been very like hyper aware of how my body feels, where my joints are supposed to be, because it's just training as a dancer. That's what you do, that you know. And I thought something is off. I went to the ER. I had several ER trips from September of 2022 to December of 2022, when finally my oncologist demanded that I get some more treatment besides pain pills at the ER. So in December, a few days before Christmas, around the 20th, I was admitted at Carson Tahoe, and they did a lumbar puncture spinal tap to see if I had MS, because there's no reason why. I mean, I just had reconstruction. My reconstruction surgery, I did have fat grafting, which is the liposuction in my inner thighs, underbutt, and my lower abdominals. And I couldn't walk for almost 2 months. And when I did, I was using a rollator or a cane. And I was in a lot of pain. And then I had the lumbar puncture in December, and I was back on my rollator, back on the cane, trying to get back to work. At this point, I had gone back to trainer middle school in the spring semester, so January. And I don't know how. I don't know how I did it. I don't know how I did it because I was in so much pain. I had a lot of headaches, which is a side effect after you have a lumbar puncture.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have MS. I did have this like mysterious neuropathy that they kept giving me pain pills for, and different, like my primary care physician, and they just didn't know what was going on. But I was not feeling my lower legs from my knee down, just they were numb. And then the pain in my left side came back, and I thought, which one do I deal with first? So that was the beginning of the myositis journey.
I had been told by 3 different people about this flap surgery where they can take the, fat from your abdomen or wherever and reconstruct your breasts. And I was told that you need to go to a microsurgeon who eats, sleeps, and breathes this kind of surgery, and they are fellowship trained, which is why I made the arrangement to go to New Orleans to get mine done. Those flap surgeries are extremely detailed. You don't want to go to someone who does not do this all the time. Did that part of it have anything to do with your health journey moving forward?
I assume it did, like 100%. I don't doubt it, because my legs worked fine until they didn't. And the only thing that changed was I had reconstruction surgery. I was in Hawaii, like right before my surgery, surfing. I mean, walking miles, and I was fine. And then I couldn't. And ever since then, it's just been a struggle.
I'm really sorry to hear that. I do want to go back to when you felt that lump. You were doing a self-breast exam, yes?
Yes, I was foam rolling, and then I thought, well, I might as well check them.
Yes, everyone needs to do breast exams. They need to do them appropriately. So if you are finding a lump, most of the time it's found larger if you accidentally find it, because you're not intentionally going in there. I mean, like I was a boob feeler anyway. We play with our boobs, right? And so I was just I felt down here and it's like, oh, I feel a lump. And it was pretty big.
Wow.
Had I been taking the time on a regular basis to intentionally do proper breast health exams, I probably would have found it smaller and hopefully taken myself in, because I kind of ignored it. That was my story. I ignored it for a bit because I was on my way to retirement. It was the spring, and I was just all excited about retiring. So I'm like, yeah, what's that? And I remember having my husband, I said, hey, can you feel this? Do you feel a lump? And he said, yes. So, but again, I was all excited. I was busy. And then 2 days before my retirement party is when I got the ping on my phone saying, hey, you need to make your mammogram appointment. So I did.
Yes.
And
I do
then
remember that.
Yeah. And lo
Yeah.
and behold, I went in and found out 1 week after I retired that I had breast cancer and it was stage 2. Now, had I actually taken myself in that spring, I could have been more like stage 1 or something like that. So I kick
Yes.
myself every day.
Yes.
And and that is what actually drives my mission
Yeah, of
of
course.
what I do now, right? It's like,
Of course.
don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
But you were doing an exam on yourself and you felt that, which turned out to not be that particular breast. And your OBGYN said, it's movable, which usually a tumor is immovable. But had you not brought yourself in because of that, you would never have found out until later about your right breast.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's kind of a magical thing right there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, there's no accident. It wasn't a coincidence. That's how I was going to find out. To this day, right now, my third surgery again this coming Thursday in 3 days to exchange this because it has a rupture. I knew something was going on. I don't know if it's scar tissue, maybe. This is my assumption. Nobody's told me this, but I think scar tissue on this side because, women are typically asymmetrical in their breast size. I was larger on this size after breastfeeding my first child way long time ago, and I had more skin on this side. So I don't know if maybe some of that scar tissue fused on my chest wall, my pec muscle, any kind of muscle that's within your chest, because it's all condensed in there. We don't know. But anytime I move my arm, my pec fires. Of course, it would. But I feel something nagging on my chest muscle. And I don't know, but my symptoms with the myositis, it's a muscle disease. My immune system attacks my muscle tissue really badly. So I don't know if it's scar tissue that's aggravating that. And then my body's sending me all these signs. And I don't know how long this has been ruptured, but I know there was a capsular contraction because it was tight all the way around. I mean, I could not right now, but before I used to be able to feel it kind of rubbing against my chest. It was really uncomfortable. So I was like, there's something wrong. There's something going on here. I asked if I could be seen, and we had kind of a love-hate relationship. I didn't hate the guy.
Right.
I just felt very dismissed, which I was. And with that little washcloth parlor trick that he had for me, I was like, are you insulting my intelligence right now? Because I don't like that.
Some people love doctors and some people don't. Like for me, that's kind of a little bit how I feel about my oncologist. I love her. She saved my life. There were a lot of things that happened during my journey that I was angry. And there are a lot of people who absolutely love her. And so it's kind of one of those, what kind of experience do you have? So what I'm wondering is does he know how you feel? You felt dismissed?
I know his MA did. I know that. But when I did ask, I was texting with the practice that, can I be seen for this? And they're like, well, you still have a little bit of a balance shift. Could you please pay? And I was thinking in my head, I wasn't going to pay that because I'm in pain. Like I shouldn't be in pain. You know what I mean? I was very upset. I had like rage, but I was completely helpless. I didn't know where to turn to. I didn't know where to go. My lymphatic therapist was my only medical advocate then until she introduced me to my neurologist who ordered the muscle biopsy just last year on my right thigh to find out what was going on because my inflammatory markers on my blood work never spiked like really high because I was having rhabdomyolysis episodes, which is when your whole entire body cramps. I had 2 episodes, both involved medical intervention. One was here at home with Dr. Rue. I don't recommend them. Anyway, a mobile IV service or, medical service. That was it last year? Yes, last year. And 2024 is when I started cramping to the extreme. Like heat started changing for me. Pool chemicals changed things for me. I was having all of these neurological symptoms. I didn't understand because I had breast cancer. I didn't
Right.
have anything going on. Well, what was going on? So long story short, I believe from what I know that maybe I've always had the genes to have myositis, but until I was cut open, my first surgery, which was my mastectomy, I had a minor surgery way back when, but it was just a laparoscopic procedure, so it was just a little cut. But this was a major surgery, a bilateral mastectomy plus reconstruction.
Mm-hmm.
And the biopsy and taking all these findings and speaking to these doctors for a period of 4 years, we reached the conclusion with the muscle biopsy that my results had that atypical profile of somebody with immune mediated inflammatory myositis. And I thought, what? But my blood markers like CK levels and any other out there ANA levels, they were all normal. They were all
Interesting.
normal. Yeah. So we're still trying to get through that mess. But because last year I didn't see an oncologist and it's still below 5 years. So I didn't get my scan because I just had a hole drilled in my leg and couldn't really walk. And I didn't want to deal with anything else, like no surprises, because I knew something was wrong. So I didn't get my scan because, I did keep my skin. I had a skin sparing mastectomy. So I have my nipples, I have the breast skin on top. Everything is mine. So they just do the ultrasound for my scans every
Yes.
year, make sure that there's nothing popping up on the skin, which there wasn't. But I did voice my concern that this has felt really hard. I was kind of neglected, refused by my plastic surgeon to be seen. So I just kind of, because I'm having issues with my lower leg. So I just put that on hold, forgot about it. Not really, but you know what I mean? Pick one Evo over the other. So she said, let's order a breast MRI. And I thought, okay. And then she just explained you to be laying down on the table and you're like dangly bits and like you're getting milked. So with those findings, I didn't even open it. I knew better to open up my test results because of what happened to me and my, discovery of cancer. I didn't want to be shocked. So my husband and I went into Dr. Tack's office. She's now with Renown here in Reno. So reestablished the relationship with her, got my scans. She's like, did you see your results? And I said, nope, I was a good girl and waited for you. And she said, good job. And she said, well, you have a rupture. And I went, excuse me? What? And because I had a LDM, I had a lymphatic drainage massage like a week previously after the scan, just the regular 3D scan that I got. And then I went to go get a lymphatic drainage massage. And my boss, my friend Nina Raton, she said, yeah, the way your profile sits, your breast it doesn't look right. Maybe you have a leak. And I was like, what? And so that's when I went back to Dr. Tack. I messaged her and said, yeah, let's get that breast MRI because my certified lymphatic therapist is now saying that the presentation is different looking. Maybe we should look into that more. And she said, you got it. And we did it. And she said, there's that rupture, like right over here somewhere. And we don't have an explanation for it. Maybe it was just a defect or whatever. That's what my current surgeon says.
No. Life just wants to throw you a little bit more, Myra. Sounds
right,
like.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sure. But I've been under treatment with clinical trial drugs since November of 2025. And one of the first drugs that was offered, you have to take your first line of drugs before you move up the scale of that neurological, rheumatological type of drugs. And the first one, they said, we're going to give you steroids for the inflammation. And I was like, no, wait, I feel like I got to go back because how I got the biopsy result, we received the biopsy result, both my rheumatologist and my neurologist, but they both disagreed and wanted it to be sent for a second opinion to Stanford. So,
okay.
But it never got sent. I kept calling and asking, where are my slides? Oh, they're still at the Sacramento Path Lab. And the old neurology office from Carson Tahoe said, you have to pay for the postage if you want a second opinion. And I was like, girl, hold up a second. I didn't want the second opinion. It was the doctors. You should be paying for that. I have never heard of anybody saying you have to pay for your own postage. So I was given the runaround. That was August of 2025 that I had received that biopsy. And it was like September when I received the results. We all got the results. And then last thing I heard was that they'll be sent to the Path Lab in Palo Alto at Stanford to get a second opinion, make sure this is an inflammatory disease.
Mm-hmm.
Like your immune system is attacking your muscles. We need confirmation. So I was like, okay. And I waited. October came around. I swear November came around, and I was like, where are the results? I called. Stanford never had them. They were still sitting at the path lab. And that's when I found out from my Carson neurology office that my neurologist was no longer there. She left. She's here in Renown now. I didn't find out until the end of November. And that's when I started low dose chemo pills. They said it's not as bad as like chemo infusions through an IV. The drugs are much stronger. These are a little less concentrated, blah, blah, blah. You should be fine. So I did that, took some folic acid, and then my hair started getting curly and longer. And I thought, okay, I didn't lose my hair. Fine. So, but I hated the way it made me feel. It did break down more of my healthy muscle tissue in my throat. So I have a hard time eating, like swallowing. I always choke on every first bite. It's improved a little bit with some treatment, but I cannot breathe when I'm teaching classes like anymore. So I just gave up my class for the year because I'm going into surgery and I had to recover. Yeah, move surgeons. It was my oncologist who recommended rye based on the fact that he's had many revision surgeries such as these and can clean out the pocket. It's a capsulectomy, implant switch, and then see what else he could see. And you don't know what you have until you open me up. So I'm just kind of going on faith right now because that's my resort. This has all been unknown.
So this all starts with this stage 1 breast cancer, and then all of the crazy stuff really started happening after that.
Yes.
So in your survivorship, which you're still surviving,
Yes.
we're all survivors, thrivers, or whatever. In
Right.
this space, what are you doing in your survivorship while you're still going through all this BS to, I guess, help others? Do you talk to other breast cancer patients, survivors about your journey and maybe about some things to avoid or questions to ask or how to advocate for themselves going forward after their diagnosis?
Gotcha. So during the recovery, I want to say it was after my reconstruction surgery. Yes, because it was August. So July was my reconstruction surgery. August, I was still down. I hadn't been exercising or anything. I was still recovering. I was sitting in my second bed, which is my zero gravity recliner, which I have to go sleep in again. Anyway, that's traumatic for me too. Anyway.
Right.
It's just not comfortable. Anyway, I was sitting there and I remember being lonely. I'm an extroverted introvert. Like I need to refresh, renew my energy, with people.
Same.
And students and whoever like that they gave me energy. But there are times of deep reflection such as this where I was reflecting at that time and I thought, if I ever make it off of this chair, because I couldn't walk because of the liposuction procedure hurt me like probably 10 times more than it would hurt the typical person. But because I had a muscle disease, of course, it hurt me a little bit more. I didn't know this, but now I do. But I decided on that chair that I was going to do something somehow. I was going to take what I've done in the past, which is having these little fundraisers for different people who needed financial support for their breast cancer journeys. I've always participated since I've been a Zumba instructor with different people in the community during the month of October when we have such breast cancer awareness things going on. So with the help of half a dozen people, we set out and did the first annual Dance for Hope, my brand. It's not a 501(c)(3). Don't have time for that right now. It's not anything. It's just something that I wanted to throw together. Right. I wanted to throw it together for the community. I've taught at most of the gyms here in Reno. So I had contacts for each different gym and I wanted them to bring themselves and their crew of people and we'd all get together and just raise funds for Cancer Community Clubhouse because I met Michelle, Natalie's sister.
Yes.
Through my Zumba class. And she was the one who invited me because I felt like when I was going through all of that unknown, I would try to go to cancer support groups, but I felt, I don't know, like an entitled person because I still had my hair. Most of the people that were in those groups didn't have hair. I was just looking for a bra and people were talking about all of their neuropathy, all of the things that chemo had done to their bodies. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't know that, but I want to help. How can I help? So I've had 4 successful years so far with Dance for Hope. This year, I handed it off to my friend Carly Thorkelson, who's also, she made the wings for the event. She's done many magical things. I handed her the reins this year and just said, I'm focusing on my recovery right now. I don't have any more traumatic energy left to spare to give to others, but yeah, just use the name, use whatever. I mean, I'll show up if I feel well that day, I'll be there. But I can't put myself through that. But that's what I did forever. I've had 2, 3 friends now, close friends in my little circle who've had cancer experiences, and it breaks my heart every time. And it's through Dance for Hope or just getting that out there and sharing, like your podcast. I share anybody else that's out there, Cancer Community Clubhouse. I share their events, anything that helps survivors, because this time really sucks. It really sucks. It really sucks that I'm still going through it, that I have to do this over and over again, over and over for the rest of my life, because I chose to have implant. And I remember Dr. Rai saying at the consultation, he said, we'll just have to keep an eye on how this is doing. Like, we're not doing both exchange. We're just doing this side that's ruptured. And then we'll figure out what to do from there. And I believe my next step would be a flat surgery that you've had.
Yeah.
And so I'm not done. I feel like I'm in limbo.
So I've interviewed a lot of microsurgeons around the country because I really set out with the intention of finding where those excellent fellowship trained microsurgeons are in our country so that people know where to go, because I had never heard of such a thing. And if it wasn't for these 3 little birdies who told me about it when I was first diagnosed, because I got my surgery after the chemo. And so I had some time to process some things, but I've interviewed my own surgeon in New Orleans, Dr. Cabling, and I've interviewed Dr. David Light in New York. I've Dr. Sharina Vasa in Beverly Hills. Dr. Crisopolo at PRMA in San Antonio, Texas, Elizabeth Potter in Austin, Texas, and a few others. Because I want people to know what their options are and that you don't necessarily have to stay in Reno to get your breast surgery. So I'm very, very vocal about that. There are people who are like, yeah, implants, no problem. Flat, yeah, okay, no problem. I've interviewed people who stayed flat and are happy being flat. I've interviewed people who have gotten flap surgeries who had a really shitty experience. Like, they have health issues like crazy, like you. So when we say that people are going through a breast cancer diagnosis treatment journey, it's never really a straight line. There are always all these other things that are happening during and after. So like when we get through our treatments, a lot of people are like, well, yay, you made it through. You're good. It's back to normal. And most of the time, that's just not what happens. And so I think it's really important to be very clear with people that it's never a straight line. But what I will say is that normally, a lot of times being in really good health, because when I was diagnosed, people said, well, Jamie, but you were so healthy. How is it that you got cancer? And I found out very quickly that healthy people can get cancer. Surprise! And so some people might say, well, I might as well just keep on being unhealthy then. I mean, I guess, if why be healthy if you're still going to get cancer? Here's why. You can get through the treatment way better if you are healthy than if you're not healthy. And so like being able to endure the crappy chemo that you have to go through if you have to.
I knew nothing. I knew nothing about microsurgeons.
Yeah, me neither.
This is all news. Why, as we've been sitting here for 58 minutes talking, I'm like, what? Huh? Like, I don't know these things. Thank God for you. Thank God for you.
And so now these are things that we as breast cancer survivors need to be able to continually tell people. Like, if we find out a friend got breast cancer, you find out what kind, because that's another thing is that I did not realize that, like, I had people saying things like, well, why can't they just get in there and cut that sucker out? Well, because of my type of breast cancer, that's not the treatment protocol. And that's why I had to go through the chemo first and then surgery. And so I think it's really important for people like us, like, hey, if somebody is diagnosed, ask them what kind of breast cancer it is. Ask them what their treatments are for that type of breast cancer.
Yes, absolutely.
Let them know that, hey, when it's time to talk about your surgery, it's not an emergency. Like some people are like, you have to go do this now. And that's not always the case. There should be time to be able to weigh your options. Like, do I want to go to surgery here? Do I want to stay flat? Do I want to do implants? Do I want to explore a flap surgery? And if they want to explore a flap surgery, we want to make sure to give them the resources that they need and the knowledge that they need to understand what that looks like, because it is a big surgery. It's a long surgery and it is a tedious, very complex surgery. Dr. Cabling is a genius. He is very, very skilled. I want to say that my surgery was about 8 hours. It used to be like 13, 14 hours. That's when they would compromise the muscles. They did not have to compromise my muscle, which is so amazing because now I can still work out. I can, build that muscle.
Yes.
And then I went back 1 year later and got a revision because there's certain things like you get dog ears.
Yeah.
He wanted to do a little lift. And so he kind of went in and did a little lipo because you get a little bit of that hard bump. Okay. Thank you so much, Myra. I just want to leave with one question here. What kind of piece of advice would you give to someone who has never been diagnosed before?
Do your homework. Do your homework thoroughly. Find trusted sources, certified surgeons who are able to do the procedures that you're looking for, and do your research. I had 2 weeks. Clearly not enough time.
Yeah. So if they're first diagnosed, do your homework.
Yes.
One of the things that we do at Test Those Breasts, and I think you know this because you see me post all the time, is I decided, because all these people that and you're included in this because you started learning most of the stuff that you know now at the time of diagnosis, at the time of surgery, right?
Yes.
That's the wrong time to learn.
Right.
Okay. So our mission at Test Those Breasts is that we want people to understand their breast health. We want them to know the 12 signs of breast cancer, because for me, I thought there was one, a lump. There are 12.
Wow.
We want people to understand there are 12 signs of breast cancer, what to look for, what to feel for. We want people to be able to take that information and advocate for themselves, right? Like if you're like, I have fluid coming out my nipple, what do I do? Advocate for yourself, call your doctor. I don't care what age you are, because 20s and 30s, you can be diagnosed. And at diagnosis is the wrong time to start learning. Learn it now so that you know what to look for, and also knowing your risk. Is it in your family? What is your lifestyle like? Do you have dense breast tissue? Do you know that you need to make sure that you get a mammogram and a supplementary screening like an ultrasound? Right. Because they see different things. Like they saw 2 different things on my mammogram, one on my mammogram and one on the ultrasounds. So that is what our mission is. So for you, I commend you for like, what is that? And taking yourself in. And even though that was not the cancer, it still brought you to a cancer diagnosis, and you, lo and behold, magically were able to find it early. So that is amazing. I have little Koa down here, by the way. Hey, you want to come here? Come on up here. Come on up here and meet Myra. Come here.
That is sweet.
Come here.
I just saw that you just added a new family member just recently, right? That's the one.
This is Koa. And I did not know that Koa is a wood also, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I never knew that. I just knew that it meant warrior or brave one. And we stay at the Halakoa when we go to Oahu. So his name is Koa, and he is 13 weeks old on Wednesday.
Hi, Koa. You're so cute.
Hi.
You're so cute.
Hi.
Hi, Koa.
Of course, he can't hear you because I have my headphones on. I just realized that. It's like, why are you looking at Myra?
No, he's so cute. He's so cute.
Well, I just really appreciate your being here today. I'm so glad we were finally able to connect, and you were able to tell your story. I'm so sorry, all the stuff that you've gone through. It is astounding, all the stories that I hear about just this craziness that people go through. And I'm glad that you are vocal. I'm glad that you are trying to find answers. I would love to keep in touch, of course.
Yes.
And to find out, how your surgery goes and why do we have to go through all this stuff? I don't get it. No, forget it.
Right.
Anyway,
right. No.
Thank
you for having me on, Jamie. We'll keep in touch.
Okay, that sounds good. And to my audience, I really appreciate your joining us again for this episode. And we will see you next time on the next episode of Test Those Breasts. Bye for now.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to Season 7 of the Test Those Breasts podcast. I'm Jamie Vaughn, and it's been an honor to host this conversation with you. Share what you learned, support someone you love, and keep advocating for your health. If this episode meant something to you, take a moment to like, rate, and review the show. It helps another listener find us and take charge of their breast health too. Follow us on social media and join the Test Those Breasts community for more conversations, resources, and support.